Hello, welcome. Thanks for joining me. In this video, I'll be painting this cute little owl with ink and watercolor. I live in Cape Coral, and these owls are called burrowing owls, and they're protected. We take it very serious. And this guy happened to be living in my palm tree looking for a mate prior to mating season. And once they find a mate, they find a little piece of land, they claim it for their own, and they start to dig a hole together in preparation to lay eggs for mating for their babies to hatch. So here's a little family that I got a photo of, and the little perch that one owl's on. When they did find the lot that they wanted and they started digging, I called the Cape Coral owl people, and I'm sure they have a name. They come out like immediately, and they put these little perches down, and then they put PVC pipes around the nest. So landscapers know to be very careful to not get too close, especially during mating season, and they leave them alone. And they're, like I said, very protective. And so, yeah, they are only like 5.5 to 11 inches in size and 5 to 8.5 ounces in weight. And they do have their babies in March. And these guys are active during the day and at night. So we see them all day, and at night you can hear them flying around, and that's when they do their feeding, and they eat insects and mice and whatever they can catch. So let me show you how I created this burrowing owl in watercolor. I'm starting off on a 4x6 piece of watercolor paper with a mechanical pencil. And what I'm going to do is just kind of have him offset, get the main shape of his body, his eyes, and his beak. I'm going to make sure I get those eyes in exactly how I want them, where I want them, a little bit on an angle. Yeah, I'm just going to adjust this a little bit. And then I am going to start with the watercolor first. So I've got my little travel palette and my little container of water, a paper towel, and my Dugato size 0 watercolor brush. I'm mixing a little bit of raw umber and Payne's Gray together and just doing some really light brush strokes, short strokes. The feathers on the head are a little bit shorter. And these guys are brownish white feathers and really bright yellow eyes. And the feathers on the bodies are a little bit of a larger feather. And I'm leaving the white of the paper, trying to maintain that white for the white parts of the feathers. Adding a little bit of water to my brown and giving a little bit of a light shade around the eyes. And I'm going to do some pops of color here and there, a little bit of violet for some shadowing. And I'm going to dry this, except it's a little bit too wet, so I'm going to blot some of this water off. It's a little too much water. And the lemon yellow is going to be a nice bright color for the eyes. I'm covering the whole eye area because once that's dry, I'm going to go in with ink and that'll cover over the yellow. Adding a tad bit of green to that color for the beak. Beak's kind of a greenish yellow with a little bit of orange, so a little yellow ochre and just a tiny bit of sap green, very small, just to give us a little bit of shadowing on the bottom lower part of the beak. And a little bit of a cad orange. When I first started painting, I started with oil paint and I loved it so much, and I started doing, for fun, I started doing friends' pets. And then I turned it into a business and I did a lot of pet portraits for people, had a website and all that good stuff. And I just love doing cats and dogs' eyes. There's so much love in them and they're just so cool, especially all the different colors of cat's eyes. And then the dogs are just so mushy, mushy, mushy eyes. They're just, I love dogs. I have two. So I've painted my dogs in the past too, and with oil. And now I'm doing watercolor, and I did a couple pet portraits in watercolor for the holidays for people, and I really enjoyed that. So that was really fun. So yeah, when I thought of a project, I thought, why not do a little burrowing owl? And their eyes are amazing. So this was really something special for me. And this is going to be a gift for myself. So I'm adding a little bit of violet for a little pop of color. Added the violet to the brown just to give us some nice unique colors in here. And unfortunately I got distracted, came back, forgot to turn the camera on, and I ended up doing some of the details of the eyes. And I'll go back into that in a minute. But I'm adding a little bit of an opera pink to the brown just to give us a little bit more color and some shadowing. So with the eyes, I ended up grabbing the Uniball Micro pen and I outlined the eye and then I did the iris. And I covered the top of the iris a little bit so it's underneath the hood of the eye. So it's not fully in the center. And I will end up doing a little more detail here right now. So just like this, just cover that up with some ink. And we're going to go in with some white for some highlights. So I'm mixing a little Payne's Gray, very light, a little bit of water, and this is going to be the shadow going over the top of the eye. Very, very important. You could see the eye through that still, the yellow of the eye still through there, but that gives us that shadow of that, I guess, eyebrow of the owl's top of the eyes, the hood of the eyes. So now that everything's dry, I'm going to add some ink details with my Uniball Micro, Ultra Micro pen. And I'm not going to outline, I'm not doing too much detail, just the outline of the beak, the eyes, And then I'll just add a few squiggles here and there for some feathers. And then I'm going to go back to my palette, add some water to the colors on there, and do some spatters. And you just fill up the brush with the paint and then just tap the brush for those spatters. So I'm attempting to try to use the Uni Posca, but it wasn't quite bright enough for me, so I'm going to come back to those highlights a little bit later. I'm going to add a little bit of a cobalt, or not a cobalt, excuse me, a ultramarine blue, just to give us a little bit of depth here and there, and just a little more color. Gives us a little bit of more shadowing of those feathers coming out. And this little guy's coming along nicely. So once that's dry, I'm going to come back in with my pen and I'm just going to add a few little dots in the eyes. And a little bit of white gouache, that's going to be my highlights in the eyes. And I'm going to do a couple feather highlights too. So first I'm going to add a little, just a little dot of orange, a little pop of color. And then I'm going to use a very small tip, tip brush for the highlights. I want to make sure that's very small. Add a little water to that paint, thin it out a little bit. Just a couple little dots here, right in the iris. Underneath that shadow, of course. And a little highlight on the beak. And then I was going to attempt to add a little bit of blue in there, but I didn't like the way that turned out, so I'm going to go back and adjust that. I'm going to put a little pen on that, redo that. There we go. So now I'm going to add a little bit more white gouache here and there. Reestablish those whites. And a few more spatters of the ultramarine. And this is done. So I'm going to share with you where I'm going to put this in an acrylic frame. These are amazing. You can get these on Amazon and they're magnetic. So you just open it up. Once your painting is dry, put that in. This is a 4x6 frame, 4x6 paper, perfect fit. And here you go. This is a great way to display your artwork. No need to hang it. Put it on a shelf somewhere. Makes for a great conversation piece. So I love it. Thank you so much for your time. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to reach out. I'd love to hear from you. And in the description below, I'll leave all the supplies I used with a link connected. So all you have to do is hit the link if you'd like to purchase, where I can earn a small commission, and every little bit helps. So thank you so much for your support. And if you are a subscriber, thank you. If you're not, think about subscribing to help me with my channel. I'd love to bring you more artwork as I progress. So thank you for your time. Have a wonderful day. Bye now.